The evening of my son Tyler's anniversary dinner, Amber called me just the cleaner, right in front of our entire family. Nobody said a word in my defense. Not even my husband Michael or my own son. I smiled politely, finished serving dessert, and continued clearing plates as if I hadn't heard her. 3 days later, I packed my bags, emptied our joint account, and disappeared to the coastal cottage I'd secretly purchased years ago. 1 month later, Amber called me crying, begging me to come back. But by then, I had already found myself again. I spent all day preparing for Tyler and Amber's 5th anniversary dinner. Before we jump back in, tell us where you're tuning in from, and if this story touches you, make sure you're subscribed, because tomorrow I've saved something extra special for you. 5 years of marriage that had transformed my once considerate son into someone I barely recognized anymore. Still, family is family, and I wanted everything to be perfect. The dining room table in our Victorian home had been in Michael's family for 3 generations. I polished it until I could see my reflection, arranged fresh peonies from my garden as the centerpiece, and used the Royal Doulton china we'd received as wedding gifts 32 years ago. The menu was elaborate: butternut squash soup with toasted pumpkin seeds, roasted herb chicken with garlic mashed potatoes, haricots verts with almond slivers, and for dessert, Amber's favorite, lemon tart with raspberry coulis. "Susan, the table looks beautiful," my sister Anna said, arriving early to help. She was the only one who ever seemed to notice these details. "You've outdone yourself." I wiped my brow with the back of my hand. "Thanks, I've been up since 5. "Does Amber appreciate any of this?" Anna asked quietly, arranging the crystal water glasses. I gave her a look that said everything she needed to know. In the 5 years since Tyler had married Amber Westbrook, heiress to the Westbrook publishing fortune, I'd become increasingly invisible in my own home. "She'll find something to criticize," I whispered. "She always does." At precisely 6 o'clock, the doorbell rang. Tyler and Amber arrived first, followed by Michael's brother Jackson and his wife Georgina, then Amber's parents, Carter and Lena Westbrook. Carter's stern face never seemed to soften, even during celebrations, while Lena floated in wearing a designer dress that probably cost more than our monthly mortgage payment. "Susan," Lena air-kissed near both my cheeks, careful not to make actual contact. "This house always has such character," I smiled politely. "Thank you for coming, Lena." Amber surveyed the dining room, her eyes lingering on the china. "Oh, we're using the old-fashioned dishes. How quaint." Tyler, standing beside her in his tailored suit, said nothing. The son who once helped me bake cookies and plant tulip bulbs every autumn now worked as an executive at his father-in-law's publishing company. The transformation had been gradual but complete. "Dinner will be served in 10 minutes, I announced, retreating to my kitchen sanctuary. Michael followed me, loosening his tie. At 57, he still had the same strong jawline that had attracted me in college, though his dark hair had silvered at the temples. "Need any help?" he asked, reaching for a beer from the refrigerator. "You could carve the chicken," I suggested. He nodded, taking a long sip. "Carter's talking about promoting Tyler to VP of Operations. Isn't that great?" "Wonderful," I murmured, arranging the soup bowls on a serving tray. "Though I wonder if he would have advanced so quickly at any other company." Michael's expression hardened. "Don't start, Susan. Tonight is about celebrating their anniversary." I bit my tongue and carried the soup into the dining room, where conversation halted abruptly. They'd been discussing something they didn't want me to hear. It happened often enough that I recognized the sudden silence, the awkward glances. "Butternut squash soup," I announced, placing a bowl in front of each guest. "Is there cream in this?" Amber asked, her nose wrinkling slightly. "I'm trying to avoid dairy this month." "Just a splash," I admitted. "But I can bring you something else if—" "No, it's fine," she sighed dramatically. "I'll just have a little." Throughout dinner, I moved between kitchen and dining room, refilling wine glasses, clearing plates, bringing out new courses. No one offered to help, not even Tyler, who once insisted on being my assistant chef for family gatherings. As I served the lemon tart, Amber was in the middle of describing their recent trip to the Amalfi Coast. The villa was absolutely divine, she said. Though the housekeeper barely spoke English, it was such a hassle explaining how we wanted things done. Good help is so hard to find these days, Lena agreed, sipping her dessert wine. That's why we're thinking of moving into a full-service building in the city, Amber continued. Tyler's commute is killing him, and I need staff that actually knows what they're doing. The suburbs aren't that bad, Tyler offered weakly, and Mom and Dad are close by. Amber patted his hand condescendingly. Darling, you know we've outgrown this area. Besides, your father is always traveling, and Susan is… She waved her hand dismissively in my direction. Well, she's just the cleaner anyway. Not like we have deep conversations. The table fell silent. I stood frozen, dessert server in hand, feeling 6 pairs of eyes avoid looking at me. Michael cleared his throat but said nothing. Tyler examined his napkin intently. More tart, anyone? I asked, my voice steady despite the burning humiliation rising in my chest. It's delicious, Susan, Anna finally said, breaking the excruciating silence. After dessert, I began clearing plates while the others moved to the living room for coffee. Anna lingered behind, helping me load the dishwasher. You're not just the cleaner, she hissed. How dare she say that in your own home? And Michael and Tyler just sat there. I methodically rinsed each plate before placing it in the dishwasher. It's fine, Anna. It's not fine. You cooked for 2 days. You've supported Tyler through everything. College, his first apartment, when he lost that job before meeting Amber, and now he sits there while his wife insults you? I closed the dishwasher and leaned against the counter, suddenly feeling every hour of the day's work in my aching back and feet. Did you know, I said quietly, that I have a master's degree in library science? That I managed the university, archives before Tyler was born? Michael and I agreed I'd stay home while Tyler was young, and somehow, I never went back. Anna squeezed my shoulder. I remember. You were brilliant at your job. 30 years, I whispered. 30 years of cooking, cleaning, organizing everyone's lives. I've managed this household, paid the bills, scheduled every appointment, remembered every birthday and anniversary. I've been the perfect corporate wife, the devoted mother, the gracious hostess, and now I'm just the cleaner. Through the doorway, I could see them all laughing in the living room. Michael was pouring brandy for Carter, while Tyler showed off photos on his phone. No one had noticed my absence. What are you going to do? Anna asked. I straightened my shoulders and picked up the coffee tray. Right now, I'm going to serve coffee. Tomorrow might be different. As I walked toward the living room with a perfect hostess smile fixed on my face, I felt something shift inside me. A thread that had been stretched too thin for too long had finally, quietly snapped. The morning after the anniversary dinner, I woke before sunrise, a habit from decades of being the first one up to prepare breakfast and pack lunches. The house was silent. Michael's side of the bed was empty. He had an early flight to Chicago for a conference. He'd left without saying goodbye. I made coffee and carried it to the sunroom at the back of the house, watching dawn break over the garden I'd cultivated for 25 years. The peonies were beginning to fade, their pink petals scattered across the lawn like confetti after a celebration that had ended too soon. My phone buzzed with a text from Tyler. Thanks for dinner last night. Amber has a slight headache from the wine. Next time, maybe something lighter for dessert? The tart was a bit rich. No mention of Amber's comment. No acknowledgement of the insult that had hung in the air like a toxic cloud. Just critique disguised as suggestion. I didn't respond. Preparing and narrating this story took us a lot of time, so if you are enjoying it, subscribe to our channel. It means a lot to us. Now back to the story. Instead, I pulled out my laptop, the one Michael insisted was more than adequate for my basic needs when I'd mentioned wanting something newer. I logged into our joint account, the one where Michael deposited my household allowance each month. The balance showed 4,287 hours 62. Enough. Next, I opened a folder labeled Recipes and clicked on a subfolder called Summer Preserves. Inside was a document titled raspberryjam.docs, but it contained no recipes, just account numbers, passwords, and detailed notes I'd been keeping for 3 years. The exact amount I'd contributed to our home purchase from my inheritance when we married. Documentation of the rare books collection I'd built during my years at the university archives, now stored in our attic. Property records for a small cottage on the Oregon coast that I'd purchased quietly 2 years ago using money from my mother's life insurance policy. Michael had no idea it existed. Neither did Tyler. After my mother died, everyone assumed I'd used the modest inheritance for the kitchen renovation Michael had wanted. In reality, I'd found contractors who did the work for half the estimated cost and invested the difference. I'd been planning my escape route for years, even if I hadn't fully admitted it to myself. The doorbell rang at 10 a.m. It was Anna, bearing blueberry muffins and concern. "I couldn't sleep," she said, following me to the kitchen. I kept thinking about what Amber said. I filled a plate with muffins and poured her coffee. "It's not the first time." "What do you mean?" "Last Christmas, she referred to me as the help when talking to her friend on the phone. At Tyler's birthday, she asked if I'd mind eating in the kitchen since they needed the extra dining chair for someone important from the office. 2 months ago, she brought over her dry cleaning because, and I quote, 'You're going to the cleaners anyway, right?'" Anna's face reddened with anger. "And you never said anything?" "What would be the point? Tyler adores her. Michael says I'm too sensitive." I sipped my coffee. "Besides, she's not entirely wrong. What am I but unpaid household staff at this?" "Point?" Anna reached across the table and gripped my hand. "You're their mother and wife. You deserve respect." "Respect," I repeated, the word feeling foreign on my tongue. "When was the last time you saw Michael actually listen to something I said? He interrupts me mid-sentence at dinner parties. He makes decisions without consulting me. Last month, he replaced my car without even asking what I might want to drive. And Tyler?" I felt my throat tighten. Tyler used to call me every day during his first year of college. Now I'm lucky if he remembers my birthday without a reminder from his calendar app. "So what are you going to do?" I stood and walked to the window, looking out at my garden again. "I'm going to water my hydrangeas. Then I'm going to review the calendar and cancel all the dinner parties I was supposed to host for Michael's clients this month." "That's it?" "No," I said quietly. "But the rest isn't ready for discussion yet." After Anna left, I spent the day moving through the house with new awareness. In the study, Michael's achievements lined the walls, framed degrees, awards, photos, with business associates. My diplomas were stored in a box in the attic. In the living room, every piece of furniture reflected Michael's taste: leather, dark wood, masculine. Nothing of me remained except the family photos I insisted on displaying. Despite his complaints about clutter, I found myself in Tyler's old bedroom, now converted to a guest room but still containing shelves of his childhood memorabilia. Trophies I'd driven him countless miles to earn. School projects I'd helped complete late into the night. Photo albums I'd meticulously assembled year after year. My phone rang. It was Georgina, Michael's sister-in-law. "Susan, Jackson and I were just talking about last night." Her voice dropped to a conspiratorial whisper. Amber was completely out of line. "Are you okay?" "I'm fine," I replied automatically. You should have seen Lena's face when Amber made that cleaner comment. Even she looked embarrassed. And that woman has the emotional range of a teaspoon. It's really not. And Michael. Jackson is furious with him. Brothers or not, he told Michael this morning that a real man would have defended his wife. Something in me warmed slightly at the thought of Jackson confronting Michael, but it wasn't enough to douse the growing resolve hardening within me. Thank you for calling, Georgina. I appreciate your concern. We should have lunch next week. My treat. I'd like that, I said, knowing it was unlikely to happen. After we hung up, I sat on the edge of the guest bed, running my fingers over the handmade quilt I'd created when Tyler left for college. Each square contained fabric from significant moments in his life: his first school uniform, the baseball jersey from his championship game, the concert t-shirt from the first show we attended together. My phone buzzed again with a text from Michael. Carter invited us to their lake house this weekend. Told him we'd be there. Pack something nice for dinner on Saturday. Not a question, not a discussion, a directive. I set the phone down without responding and opened Tyler's closet. In the back corner, pushed behind winter coats and old sports equipment, was a small wooden box. I pulled it out and lifted the lid. Inside were letters I'd written to Tyler throughout his college years, filled with advice, encouragement, and love. Many of them were still sealed, never opened. I returned to my laptop and opened a new document. Dear Michael, I began typing. After 32 years of marriage, I've made a decision. For the next 2 days, I moved through the house like a ghost, touching objects and memories, deciding what truly mattered. I sorted through 3 decades of accumulated life with clinical detachment. My wedding china, the Royal Doulton that Amber had dismissed as old-fashioned, stayed in the cabinet. It had been Michael's mother's choice anyway, never mine. The books that lined our shelves, however, I carefully boxed. First editions I'd collected during my years at the university, signed copies from authors who'd visited the archives, literary treasures that Michael had never once opened. In our bedroom closet, I bypassed the proper clothes Michael preferred I wear to his business functions: conservative dresses in muted colors, sensible heels, pearl earrings that made me look appropriate. Instead, I packed jeans I hadn't worn in years, comfortable sweaters, and a pair of red leather boots Anna had given me for my 50th birthday that Michael had called ridiculous for a woman your age. I worked methodically while Michael was in Chicago, using the solitude to prepare. I visited my bank and opened a new account at a different institution, transferring half of our joint savings, money I was legally entitled to, but still felt slightly guilty taking. I called the family attorney under the pretense of updating our wills and casually inquired about separation proceedings, speaking in hypotheticals that fooled no one. Susan, he'd said, voice gentle with understanding, if you're considering divorce, you should know that given the length of your marriage and your role as homemaker, you're entitled to significant support. I thanked him politely and changed the subject, but filed the information away. It wasn't about money, it was about dignity. On the 3rd day, Tyler called. Dad says you're not answering his texts about the lake house this weekend. I've been busy, I replied, sealing another box of books. Busy with what? Look, the Westbrooks are expecting us. Amber's already planned activities. It would be incredibly rude to cancel now. I set down my packing tape and sat at the kitchen island. Tyler, do you remember what Amber said at dinner the other night? A pause. She says a lot of things, Mom. She called me just the cleaner. Another longer pause. She didn't mean it like that. You're being sensitive. The same words Michael always used. Sensitive. Overreacting. Making mountains out of molehills. I'd heard them so often I'd started to believe them myself. Tyler, I have a master's degree. I managed the university's rare manuscripts collection. I cataloged first editions and organized presidential papers. I know, Mom, that was a long time ago. And then I chose to stay home with you. I chose to be there for every soccer game, every school play, every sick day. I chose your father's career over mine because someone needed to raise you and maintain our home. And we appreciate that, but no, I interrupted, surprising both of us. You don't. If you appreciated it, you wouldn't sit silently while your wife demeaned me in my own home. She was tired. She's been under a lot of pressure with the charity gala coming up. I'm tired too, Tyler. I've been tired for years. My son's voice hardened. What's that supposed to mean? It means I won't be at the lake house this weekend. I have other plans. What other plans? You never have other plans. The dismissive certainty in his voice cemented my resolve. Exactly. It's time I did. After hanging up, I called Anna and asked if she could come over. An hour later, we stood in my bedroom looking at 3 suitcases and several boxes neatly stacked by the door. You're really doing this, she said. Not a question, but a confirmation. I've already contacted a property management company about the cottage. They're preparing it for occupancy. I'll drive up tomorrow. Anna sat on the edge of the bed. Does Michael know? He'll find out when he gets home tomorrow night. I've left him a letter. And Tyler? I zipped the final suitcase closed. I've left him one too, along with all those unopened letters from college. Anna helped me load everything into my car, the sensible silver sedan Michael had chosen because it was appropriate for a woman of my station. Tomorrow it would carry me to my coastal cottage, 3 hours north and a world away from this life. What? If Michael tries to follow you? Anna asked as we closed the trunk. He won't, I said with certainty. He has that pharmaceutical merger next week. Nothing takes precedence over work. And Tyler? He'll be too angry at first. By the time that passes, he'll be too busy managing Amber's reaction and placating her parents. The Westbrook connection is too valuable to his career. Anna looked at me with sad recognition. You've thought of everything. I've had years to think about it. I just never had the courage to act until now. That evening, I walked through the garden one last time, saying goodbye to plants I'd nurtured for decades. I cut the last of the peonies and arranged them in a vase, placing it on the dining room table beneath my letter to Michael. Dear Michael, by the time you read this, I will be gone. Not just to the store or to Anna's, but gone from this marriage and this life we've built. Or rather, the life you built while I maintained it. For 32 years, I've been your wife, but for the last decade at least, you've treated me more like staff. I've managed your home, maintained your social calendar, raised your son, and supported your career, all while slowly disappearing as a person with my own identity and desires. The woman you married, the educated, ambitious librarian with dreams of her own, still exists beneath the corporate wife persona I've worn for so long. I'm leaving to rediscover her. I've taken only what's rightfully mine. The joint account has been divided equally. The household bills are paid through the end of the month, giving you time to make other arrangements. I've left contact information with Anna if there are practical matters to discuss. I don't hate you, Michael. That would require a passion I no longer feel. What I feel instead is a quiet determination to reclaim the remaining years of my life as my own. Susan, I placed a similar letter in Tyler's old room, along with the box of unopened college letters. His was gentler, leaving the door open for future reconciliation if he could recognize his part in my decision. That night, I slept soundly for the first time in years. In the morning, I would leave before dawn, driving north as the sun rose, toward a future that belonged entirely to me. I woke before my alarm, the sky still dark beyond the bedroom window. For a moment, the weight of routine pressed upon me. Coffee to brew, breakfast to prepare, laundry to start. But then I remembered, today, I answered to no one but myself. I showered and dressed in clothes I'd set aside, jeans, a soft blue, sweater, and comfortable driving shoes. No makeup, no styled hair, no careful assembly of the Susan Thompson that Michael and Tyler had come to expect. Just me, unadorned and unburdened. The house was quiet as I moved through it one last time. 32 years in this space, and yet it held so little of me. I paused in the kitchen, running my fingers along the marble countertops Michael had insisted on during the renovation, the resale value, he'd explained, though we had no plans to sell. The kitchen where I'd prepared thousands of meals, packed countless lunches, and baked birthday cakes that Tyler now claimed Amber made better. In the living room, I stopped at the mantel and picked up a family photo taken on Tyler's college graduation. We looked happy, the three of us. Perhaps we were for that moment. I returned it to its place. This wasn't about erasing memories, but creating new ones. The grandfather clock in the hallway chimed 5 as I carried my overnight bag to the car. Everything else had been loaded yesterday. The cottage was partially furnished. I'd seen to that during secret visits disguised as spa weekends with Anna, but some personal touches would make it truly mine. I took one final look at the house from the driveway. Dawn was breaking, painting the sky in shades of pink and gold. Symbolic, perhaps, an ending and a beginning in the same moment. The drive north was peaceful. I rolled down the windows once I hit the coastal highway, letting the salt air fill the car. The radio played songs I chose, not the business news Michael preferred, or the trendy stations Tyler insisted were the only ones worth listening to. By 10 o'clock, I arrived at the cottage. It was small, just one bedroom, a living area, kitchen, and bathroom. But it sat on a bluff overlooking the Pacific Ocean, with a wooden deck that seemed to hover above the water at high tide. The property management company had left everything spotless, with fresh flowers on the kitchen table and a welcome basket of local produce, bread, and wine. I unpacked the car slowly, arranging my books on built-in shelves, placing my clothes in the bedroom dresser, setting up my laptop on a small desk positioned to face the ocean view. By afternoon, the cottage felt like mine in a way the grand house in the suburbs never had, despite my decades there. My phone had been buzzing periodically, Anna checking in, making sure I'd arrived safely. I responded to her but ignored the other notifications. Not yet. I wasn't ready. Instead, I walked down the winding path to the beach below the cottage. The sand was cool beneath my bare feet, the waves rhythmic and soothing. I collected shells, examined tide pools, and watched gulls soar overhead. Simple pleasures I hadn't allowed myself in years. As the sun began to set, I returned to the cottage and opened a bottle of wine from the welcome basket. Sitting on the deck with a glass in hand, I finally looked at my phone. 3 missed calls from Tyler. 1 from Michael's administrative assistant. None from Michael himself, who would still be in flight from Chicago. A text from Tyler. "Mom, what's going on?" Dad's secretary called me about some letter. "Call me ASAP," another, sent an hour later. "This isn't funny. The Westbrooks are expecting us tomorrow. What am I supposed to tell them?" And finally, most recently, just spoke to Dad. He's furious. "You can't just leave like this. We need to talk when he gets home tonight." I silenced the phone and watched the sun sink into the Pacific. Michael would be home by now, reading my letter, perhaps pouring himself a scotch to dull the shock, not of losing me, but of the inconvenience my absence would cause. Tomorrow there would be more calls, more demands, more attempts to pull me back into orbit around their lives. But tonight, I existed only for myself. I slept deeply, lulled by the sound of waves. Morning brought coffee on the deck, a simple breakfast, and the first page of a book I'd been meaning to read for years. Around noon, I drove into the nearby town, a small coastal community with art galleries, local shops, and a bookstore with reading nooks overlooking the harbor. "Just moved here?" asked the bookstore owner as she rang up my purchases, 3 novels and a guide to coastal gardening. "Yes," I replied, surprising myself with how right it felt to say it. I live in the Sandpiper Cottage on North Point. Beautiful. Spot. She nodded appreciatively. I'm Margaret, by the way. We do a book club every other Thursday if you're interested. I'm Susan, I said, realizing it was the first time I'd introduced myself to someone new in years. Not as Michael's wife, or Tyler's mother, just Susan. And yes, I'd like that very much. By late afternoon, my phone showed 15 missed calls, 7 from Michael, 5 more from Tyler, 1 from Michael's sister, and 2 from numbers I didn't recognize. The voicemails ranged from confused to concerned to angry. Michael. Susan. What the hell is this letter? Is this some kind of joke? Call me immediately. Tyler. Mom, Dad's home and he's beside himself. What's going on? Where are you? Michael again, his voice tight with controlled anger. I've spoken with James at the bank. You had no right to take that money. This childish tantrum has gone far enough. Come home now so we can discuss this like adults. Tyler once more, now, impatient. The Westbrooks canceled the lake weekend. Amber is embarrassed and upset. How could you do this to us? Finally, I listened to a voicemail from Anna. They called me just like you said they would. I didn't tell them anything. I'm proud of you, sis. Call when you're ready. I texted only Anna. I'm safe. The cottage is perfect. We'll call tomorrow. Then I switched off my phone completely, made a simple dinner, and ate it on the deck as stars appeared above the darkening ocean. A lifetime of catering to others' needs and preferences had left me unsure of my own. What foods did I actually enjoy? What music moved me? What dreams had I set aside so long ago that I could barely remember them? For the first time in decades, I had the space and silence to rediscover the answers. A week passed in gentle rhythm. Mornings on the deck with coffee and books, afternoons exploring the beach or the small coastal town, evenings watching sunsets, paint the horizon. I'd switched my phone back on but set it to silent, checking messages once daily like taking medicine, necessary but unpleasant. The calls from Michael had shifted from angry demands to cold negotiations. He'd consulted our attorney and was prepared to be reasonable if I would stop this nonsense and discuss matters properly. Tyler's messages oscillated between guilt trips about family obligations and wounded accusations about how I'd abandoned everyone without warning. Neither seemed to grasp that this wasn't a negotiating tactic or a cry for attention. It was a reclamation. On my 8th day at the cottage, I received an unexpected message from Georgina. Susan, are you okay? Everyone's talking, but nobody's saying anything real. Jackson and I are worried. I hesitated, then responded, I'm fine. Better than fine, actually. Just needed a change. Her reply came quickly. Michael told Jackson you had some kind of breakdown, said you cleared out half the bank account and disappeared. Of course he would frame it that way. A breakdown implied I was irrational, unstable, not making a clear-headed choice after years of consideration. No breakdown, I wrote back. Just clarity. And it was exactly half the account, not a penny more than my share. Can I call you? She asked. We spoke for an hour. I explained everything. Amber's comment, the decades of diminishment, the careful planning for my departure. Georgina listened without interruption. The thing is, she said finally, they're falling apart without you. What do you mean? Michael had to cancel the dinner party for the pharmaceutical executives because he couldn't find the good napkins or remember which caterer you use. Tyler missed a presentation because his good suit wasn't back from the dry cleaner. Apparently, Amber doesn't handle those things. I felt a flicker of satisfaction, quickly replaced by sadness. They're grown men. They'll figure it out. Oh, it gets better, Georgina continued. Michael tried to cook dinner for himself and set off the smoke alarm. The neighbor called the fire department, and Tyler showed up at Michael's with a bag of laundry asking if he could use the machines because Amber refuses to learn how to operate theirs. I could picture it clearly. The two of them standing in the kitchen, surrounded by mounting evidence of all the invisible work I'd done for years. Work they'd never noticed until it stopped happening. "They're helpless," Georgina said, a hint of satisfaction in her voice. "Jackson says it's pathetic. Two successful businessmen who can't manage to feed themselves or keep their shirts ironed." "They'll adapt," I said, though part of me wondered. Michael had gone from his mother's house to our college dormitory to our apartment and then our home. He'd never lived alone, never had to manage the countless small tasks that maintained his comfortable existence. "There's something else you should know," Georgina added, her tone shifting. "Amber's mother called Michael in a panic yesterday. Apparently, Amber's having a meltdown because Tyler suggested she might need to step up around their house since you're gone." I could imagine that conversation. Tyler, frustrated by wrinkled shirts and missed dry cleaning, tentatively suggesting that perhaps Amber could handle some household responsibilities. Amber, outraged at the very notion, calling her mother to intervene. "What did Michael say?" I asked. "He told Lena that Tyler would have to handle his own marital problems. Michael's too busy trying to find someone to replace you." "Replace me?" "He's interviewing housekeepers. Asked if I knew anyone good." I laughed despite myself. "He's going to pay someone to do what I did for free all these years?" "Apparently," Georgina paused. "Jackson said he should have been paying you all along." After our call, I walked on the beach for hours, processing this new information. It was vindicating to know they were struggling without me, yet sad that it took my absence for them to recognize the value of what I'd provided. Not my company, not my perspective or my love, just my labor. The next morning, I received a text from Tyler. "Amber's really upset about everything. She says she never meant to hurt your feelings at dinner. Can you please call her so we can move past this?" I stared at the message, noting what it didn't say. No acknowledgement of his silence when Amber insulted me. No recognition of the deeper issues, just a request to smooth things over so their lives could return to comfortable normality. Before I could decide how to respond, my phone rang. "Anna, they're escalating," she said without preamble. "What do you mean?" "Michael showed up at my house last night, demanding to know where you are. He seems to think I've been hiding you in my guest room this whole time." I sighed. "I'm sorry he dragged you into this." "Oh, I'm not complaining. I rather enjoyed telling him I support your decision completely, and that perhaps he should examine why his wife of 32 years felt the need to escape." I could picture Anna, 5'4" and fearless, standing up to my 6-foot husband without blinking. How did he take that? Not well. He said I was encouraging your delusional behavior, and that I'd regret it when you came to your senses and found yourself without a husband. "As if that's the worst possible fate," I murmured. Exactly what I said. I told him that from what I've seen, you're happier without a husband than you ever were with one. "Anna?" "Well, it's true." She paused. "There's more. Tyler and Amber are having serious problems. Jackson heard from Michael that Tyler's sleeping in the guest room." "Because of me?" "Because Tyler suggested that since you're not around to handle everything anymore, perhaps Amber could learn to use the washing machine. She threw a vase at him." I closed my eyes. "That's not healthy." "None of it was healthy, Susan. That's the point. You were the buffer absorbing everyone's dysfunction. With you gone, they're having to face it directly." After we hung up, I sat on the deck watching seagulls circle above the waves. I felt no triumph in their struggles, only a growing certainty that I'd made the right decision. Their problems weren't mine to fix anymore. That evening, I received a text from an unknown number. "Susan, this is Amber. We need to talk. Things are falling apart here." So it begins, I thought, watching the sun sink into the sea. I ignored Amber's text. Whatever crisis she was experiencing wasn't my emergency. Not anymore. Instead, I attended the bookstore's Thursday night book club, where I met a group of women ranging from their 30s to their 70s, artists, retirees, local business owners. No one asked about my husband or children. No one defined me by my relationship to others. I was simply Susan, the new resident with thoughtful comments about the novel we discussed. Afterward, Margaret, the bookstore owner, invited several of us for wine at a nearby cafe. The conversation flowed easily. Books, local politics, travel stories. I mentioned I'd worked in university archives, and Elaine, a retired history professor, lit up. The community college here is looking for someone to organize their historical documents, she said. Just part-time, but they need someone who knows what they're doing. I haven't worked professionally in over 20 years, I admitted. So, knowledge doesn't expire. Elaine shrugged. I know the department chair. I could put in a word. The idea was both terrifying and exhilarating. My own job, however small. My own money, not an allowance from Michael. I'd like that, I said, surprising myself with how much I meant it. When I returned to the cottage, my sense of possibility was immediately dampened by a notification on my phone. 3 missed calls from Michael, 2 from Tyler, and another text from Amber. I know you're reading these. This is serious. Tyler is threatening divorce. My finger hovered over the delete button, but curiosity won out. I called Anna instead. Do you know anything about Tyler and Amber having marriage problems? I asked when she answered. Oh yes, she replied. Georgina called me earlier. Apparently, Amber went to her parents' house 3 days ago and hasn't come back. Tyler's beside himself. What happened? From what I gather, Tyler expected Amber to step up with household tasks since you're gone. Amber expected Tyler to hire someone immediately to replace you. When he said they should manage themselves until they figure out a permanent solution, she packed a bag and left. I sat heavily on the sofa. That seems extreme. Well, there's more. Amber found out that Tyler's promotion isn't coming through. Carter apparently told him that while he's a decent employee, he's not VP material yet. Might never be. That must have been a blow. Despite everything, I felt a pang for my son. Tyler had staked so much on impressing his father-in-law. The timing wasn't great. Tyler told her about the promotion the same day he suggested she might need to do laundry occasionally. I could picture Amber's outrage. She'd married Tyler when his star was rising, handsome, ambitious, with a powerful father-in-law ready to propel his career. The reality check of thwarted ambition and domestic expectations must have shattered her vision of their life together. I'm not getting involved, I said firmly. No one's asking you to, Anna replied, though I should warn. Michael's threatening to come find you. He doesn't know where I am. He's convinced I do, and he's talking about hiring a private investigator. That gave me pause. Can he do that? Legally, yes. But it won't look good if it comes to divorce proceedings. Stalking his estranged wife won't play well with a judge. I'm not hiding, I said. I just need space. After we hung up, I sat watching the moonlight on the waves, considering my options. I wasn't ready to face Michael or Tyler, but perhaps a brief message would buy me time. To Tyler, I'm safe and well. Your marriage issues with Amber are between you two. I can't fix this for you. Take care of yourself. To Michael, I understand you're considering hiring someone to find me. That would be a mistake and a waste of money. I'll contact you when I'm ready to discuss next steps. Until then, please respect my need for space. To Amber, after some hesitation, whatever is happening between you and Tyler has nothing to do with me. You made your feelings about me quite clear at dinner. I wish you both well, but I'm not coming back to solve your problems. I sent the messages, then turned off my phone completely. Tomorrow, I had an informal interview with Elaine's contact at the community college. Tonight, I needed peace. The interview went surprisingly well. Dr. Rivera, the department chair, was more impressed by my experience than concerned about the gap in my employment. The position was just 15 hours a week, perfect for easing back into professional life. "When can you start?" she asked at the end of our meeting. "Next week?" I suggested, hardly believing this was happening. "Perfect. I'll email the paperwork." I floated back to the cottage on a cloud of validation. For years, Michael had dismissed my career as something I'd dabbled in before finding my real purpose as wife and mother. Now someone valued my professional expertise enough to hire me. Just like that. I ignored Amber's text. Whatever crisis she was experiencing wasn't my emergency, not anymore. Instead, I attended the bookstore's Thursday night book club, where I met a group of women ranging from their 30s to their 70s, artists, retirees, local business owners. No one asked about my husband or children. No one defined me by my relationship to others. I was simply Susan, the new resident with thoughtful comments about the novel we discussed. Afterward, Margaret, the bookstore owner, invited several of us for wine at a nearby cafe. The conversation flowed easily. Books, local politics, travel stories. I mentioned I'd worked in university archives, and Elaine, a retired history professor, lit up. "The community college here is looking for someone to organize their historical documents," she said. "Just part-time, but they need someone who knows what they're doing." "I haven't worked professionally in over 20 years, I admitted. "So? Knowledge doesn't expire?" Elaine shrugged. "I know the department chair. I could put in a word." The idea was both terrifying and exhilarating. My own job, however small. My own money, not an allowance from Michael. "I'd like that," I said, surprising myself with how much I meant it. When I returned to the cottage, my sense of possibility was immediately dampened by a notification on my phone. 3 missed calls from Michael, 2 from Tyler, and another text from Amber. "I know you're reading these. This is serious. Tyler is threatening divorce." My finger hovered over the delete button, but curiosity won out. I called Anna instead. "Do you know anything about Tyler and Amber having marriage problems?" I asked when she answered. "Oh yes," she replied. "Georgina called me earlier. Apparently, Amber went to her parents' house 3 days ago and hasn't come back. Tyler's beside himself." "What happened?" "From what I gather, Tyler expected Amber to step up with household tasks since you're gone. Amber expected Tyler to hire someone immediately to replace you. When he said they should manage themselves until they figure out a permanent solution, she packed a bag and left." I sat heavily on the sofa. "That seems extreme." "Well, there's more. Amber found out that Tyler's promotion isn't coming through. Carter apparently told him that while he's a decent employee, he's not VP material yet. Might never be. That must have been a blow. Despite everything, I felt a pang for my son. Tyler had staked so much on impressing his father-in-law. The timing wasn't great. Tyler told her about the promotion the same day he suggested she might need to do laundry occasionally. I could picture Amber's outrage. She'd married Tyler when his star was rising. Handsome, ambitious, with a powerful father-in-law ready to propel his career. The reality check of thwarted ambition and domestic expectations must have shattered her vision of their life together. "I'm not getting involved," I said firmly. "No one's asking you to," Anna replied. "Though I should warn. Michael's threatening to come find you. He doesn't know where I am." "He's convinced I do. And he's talking about hiring a private investigator." That gave me pause. "Can he do that?" "Legally, yes. But it won't look good if it comes to divorce proceedings. Stalking his estranged wife won't play well with a judge." "I'm not hiding," I said. "I just need space." After we hung up, I sat watching the moonlight on the waves, considering my options. I wasn't ready to face Michael or Tyler, but perhaps a brief message would buy me time. To Tyler, "I'm safe and well. Your marriage issues with Amber are between you two. I can't fix this for you. Take care of yourself. To Michael. I understand you're considering hiring someone to find me. That would be a mistake and a waste of money. I'll contact you when I'm ready to discuss next steps. Until then, please respect my need for space. To Amber, after some hesitation. Whatever is happening between you and Tyler has nothing to do with me. You made your feelings about me quite clear at dinner. I wish you both well, but I'm not coming back to solve your problems. I sent the messages, then turned off my phone completely. Tomorrow I had an informal interview with Elaine's contact at the community college. Tonight, I needed peace. The interview went surprisingly well. Dr. Rivera, the department chair, was more impressed by my experience than concerned about the gap in my employment. The position was just 15 hours a week, perfect for easing back into professional life. When can you start? She asked at the end of our meeting. Next week? I suggested, hardly believing this was happening. Perfect. I'll email the paperwork. I floated back to the cottage on a cloud of validation. For years, Michael had dismissed my career as something I'd dabbled in before finding my real purpose as wife and mother. Now someone valued my professional expertise enough to hire me. Just like that. When I switched my phone back on, the barrage was immediate. The next morning, I met with Patricia Winters, a divorce attorney Anna recommended. Her office overlooked the harbor, with paintings by local artists adorning the walls, as different from the sterile corporate environments of Michael's world as possible. So, she said after I'd explained my situation, you left without warning, took half the money from your joint account, and are now living separately, and your husband is making legal threats to force your return. That's correct. She made a note on her legal pad. Have you checked your credit cards recently? I frowned. No, should I? Immediately after we finish here. Controlling spouses often cut off financial access as their first move. Sure enough, when I checked my phone after our meeting, I discovered Michael had indeed canceled my credit cards, all except one with a $500 limit I rarely used. The good news, Patricia told me after I reported back, is that this kind of financial manipulation looks terrible in divorce proceedings. The bad news is that you'll need to set up independent finances immediately. I explained about my new part-time position at the community college. Good start, she nodded. But we'll need to ensure you receive appropriate temporary support while the divorce is pending. 32 years of marriage, during which you supported his career at the expense of your own. You're entitled to significant maintenance. Word divorce still felt strange in my mouth, both bitter and liberating. I'd committed myself to Michael for life, believing that promise sacred. But what happens when the person you married disappears bit by bit, replaced by someone who sees you as property rather than partner? What should I do about Michael's threats? I asked. Document everything. Forward me all texts, emails, voicemails. If he escalates further, we may need to consider a protective order. He wouldn't hurt me, I said automatically, then paused, less certain than I'd been a moment before. The Michael I married wouldn't have. But the man threatening abandonment, charges, and canceling credit cards, I wasn't sure I knew him at all. Patricia seemed to read my hesitation. Emotional abuse often escalates when control is threatened. Be careful. I left her office with a folder of information, a list of documents to gather, and a weight lifted from my shoulders. Whatever came next, I wasn't facing it alone or unprepared. Back at the cottage, I checked my email and found a formal offer letter from the community college. The salary was modest, but represented something priceless. Financial, independence, professional validation, a future of my own making. I was about to call Anna with the news when my phone rang. Tyler. Mom? He said when I answered, his voice strained. We need to talk. In person. I'm not ready for that, Tyler. You don't understand. Dad's losing it. He's talking about filing a mental health petition, claiming you're not competent to make... Your own decisions. My blood ran cold. He can't do that. He says he can. He's got Dr. Fredericks involved. Says you've been depressed for years. That this disappearing act proves you're having some kind of breakdown. Dr. Fredericks, Michael's golf buddy and our family physician for 20 years. The same doctor who'd prescribed me antidepressants after I'd mentioned feeling unfulfilled during a checkup 5 years ago. Tyler, listen to me. I am perfectly sound of mind. I left because I was unhappy, not because I'm unstable. There's a difference. Then why won't you just come home and talk? Why all this secrecy and drama? Because I knew exactly how your father would react. By trying to control me, manipulate me, and now apparently have me declared incompetent, rather than accepting my decision. There was silence on the other end. Then, Amber moved back home. Yesterday, the abrupt change of subject startled me. I thought she was staying with her parents. She was, but apparently Lena told her some home truths after talking to you. Something about facing her responsibilities as a wife. He sounded bewildered by this development. And how is that going? Weird. She asked me to show her how to use the washing machine. He paused. Then she cried when she shrank one of my sweaters. Despite everything, I felt a flutter of sympathy for Amber. She'd been raised in wealth, with staff handling household tasks. Like Tyler, she'd never had to develop basic life skills. She'll learn, I said. You both will. Mom, please just tell me where you are. We can meet somewhere neutral. Just talk. I can't do that yet, Tyler. Not with your father threatening legal action against me. He's just upset. He misses you. No, Tyler. He misses what I did for him. There's a difference. I sighed. I need to go. Please be careful about what information you share with your father right now. And if you really want to help, tell him to stop making threats and start respecting my choices. After we hung up, I called Patricia immediately and relayed Tyler's warning about the mental health petition. It's an intimidation tactic, she assured me. Getting someone involuntarily committed requires substantial evidence of immediate danger, to themselves or others. Living independently and withdrawing from an unhappy marriage doesn't qualify. She paused. However, I would recommend documenting your mental state. Perhaps schedule an appointment with a new physician here. Establish a relationship. Get a clean bill of health on record. I'll do that, I promised. Later that evening, my phone chimed with a text from a number I didn't recognize. Susan, this is Carter Westbrook. I understand my wife spoke with you yesterday. I wish to apologize for my daughter's behavior at your dinner party. It was inexcusable. While I hope your family's situation resolves favorably, please know that Amber's actions do not reflect our family's values. I stared at the message in disbelief. Carter Westbrook apologizing? The same man who'd once remarked that trophy wives should be grateful for the lifestyle they're provided? Before I could formulate a response, another message arrived from the same number. I should also inform you that I've advised Michael against pursuing any mental health petition. Such actions would reflect poorly on everyone involved, including my family by extension. I trust he will reconsider. The subtext was clear. Carter was protecting his family's reputation, not supporting my autonomy. Still, I appreciated the intervention. I replied simply, "Thank you for letting me know." That night, I sat on the deck watching stars emerge above the ocean, considering how quickly alliances shifted when power dynamics changed. Carter, worried about scandal touching his family. Lena, suddenly counseling Amber on wifely responsibilities. Michael, threatening involuntary commitment rather than accepting my independence. And me, no longer the amenable, accommodating Susan Thompson who smoothed every wrinkle in the family fabric. Just Susan now, making my own way, standing my ground. The thought filled me with a quiet strength as steady as the rhythm of waves against the shore. My first day at the community college archives felt like stepping back in time. Not to my marriage or motherhood, but to the earlier version of myself, who found purpose in preserving history. The archives were housed in the basement of the library, a labyrinth of shelves containing local records, photographs, and personal papers donated by area families. "It's a bit overwhelming," Dr. Rivera admitted as she showed me around. "No one with proper training has organized this in years." I ran my fingers along a box labeled Coastal Fishing Industry, 1920-1945. "It's perfect," I said, meaning it. The challenge of bringing order to chaos appealed to me in ways I couldn't fully articulate. By lunchtime, I'd created a preliminary organization system and unearthed several fascinating photographs of the harbor from the 1930s. The work absorbed me completely. No one interrupted with demands. No one questioned my methods. No one needed me to stop what I was doing to attend to their needs. "You've accomplished more in 4 hours than our last 3 student assistants did in a semester," Dr. Rivera marveled when she stopped by to check on me. I felt a flush of pride. "I've barely scratched the surface." "Well, whatever you're doing, keep doing it, and please call me Elena." After work, I stopped at a local cafe for lunch, treating myself to a bowl of seafood chowder and a glass of white wine. As I ate, I checked my phone and found a text from Anna. "Michael showed up at my office this morning. Demanded to know if I'm harboring you. I told him you're a grown woman, not a fugitive. He did not take it well." I frowned. "What happened?" "He threatened to sue me for interfering in his marriage. I told him to try it and see how that plays in divorce court. He turned purple and left. I felt a surge of anxiety. I'm sorry he's dragging you into this. Don't be. I'm enjoying watching him unravel. BTW, his housekeeper quit after 3 days, said he was impossible to please. Despite my concern, I couldn't help but smile. Michael, who'd rarely noticed the endless work I did to maintain our home, was now discovering just how difficult it was to replace me. Back at the cottage, I found a certified letter in my mailbox. Formal divorce papers filed by Michael, citing abandonment and emotional distress. I called Patricia immediately. "This is actually good news," she said after I explained. "It means he's given up on forcing your return and is moving to the next stage. His grounds are laughable, but we don't need to contest them if you're agreeable to divorce." "I am," I confirmed. "Then, we'll respond with our own filing. His financial declarations will give us insight into exactly what assets we're dealing with." She paused. "Susan, has he tried to contact you directly about this?" "Not yet." "He will. Remember, don't agree to anything, don't sign anything, don't make any verbal agreements without consulting me first." That evening, I received an email from Michael. "Susan, you've left me no choice but to pursue legal divorce proceedings. Your continued absence and refusal to engage in reasonable discussion have made it clear that you no longer value our marriage or family. I'm prepared to be generous in the settlement, provided you behave reasonably. My offer: the beach house in Florida, which you always liked, a fair monthly allowance, and your personal possessions. In exchange, I'll retain the primary residence, my business interests, and investment accounts. This offer is contingent upon your immediate return of the funds you improperly removed from our joint account and a swift, uncontested divorce. Otherwise, I'll have no choice but to pursue all legal remedies available, including a full accounting of your mental health issues in court." Michael, I forwarded it to Patricia with a single comment: threats and lowballing, as expected. Her response came quickly. "The beach house needs a new roof and has a tax lien. He's offering you expenses, not assets. We'll counter appropriately. And document the mental health threat. It's witness intimidation." I was still processing this exchange when Tyler called. "Mom, did you get Dad's divorce papers?" "I did. This is insane. You need to come home and work this out before it's too late." I sat on the deck, watching the sunset paint the sky in shades of pink and gold. "Tyler, your father and I are getting divorced. That's the reality now." But why? Because of one comment at dinner? Because you felt unappreciated? Every marriage has problems. It wasn't one comment, Tyler. It was 32 years of slowly disappearing until I barely recognized myself. Your father doesn't want a wife. He wants a housekeeper, social secretary, and occasional ornament for business functions. That's not fair. Dad loves you. Does he? When was the last time he asked about my dreams, my interests, or my opinions on anything that mattered? Silence stretched between us. Finally, Tyler said in a smaller voice, I don't want my family to fall apart. My heart ached for him. Despite his entitled behavior, he was still my son, facing the collapse of his understanding of his parents' relationship. The family isn't falling apart, Tyler. It's reconfiguring. Your father and I will both still be your parents. We'll both still love you, but we won't be married anymore. Amber's really upset about everything, he admitted. She says she never meant to hurt you at dinner. I'm sure she didn't intend for me to leave, but she meant exactly what she said. I was just the cleaner to her, and to an extent to you, and your father too. That's not true, isn't it? When was the last time you asked about my life, Tyler? My interests? My dreams? You call when you need something. Advice, a recipe, help with a gift for Amber. But do you ever call just to know how I am? Another long silence. Then quietly, I'm calling now. Yes, you are, and I appreciate that. I softened my tone. How are things with Amber? Really? He sighed. Complicated. She's trying, I think. She made dinner last night, pasta from a box, but still, and she's talking about getting a job. That surprised me. What kind of job? Her friend's boutique needs help, just part-time, but it's something. She says she needs her own money. He hesitated. I think she's afraid I might leave her. Are you considering that? No, I mean, I don't know. Everything's different now. I look at Dad, how he's falling apart without you. And I wonder if that's me in 30 years. Helpless, angry, unable to take care of myself. His self-awareness caught me off guard. You don't have to follow that path, Tyler. I know. That's why I've been learning to cook. Nothing fancy, but I can make scrambled eggs without setting off the smoke alarm now. Despite everything, I smiled. That's a start. After we hung up, I sat watching the stars emerge, feeling a complex mix of emotions. Sadness for the pain my family was experiencing, determination to maintain my boundaries, and a surprising flicker of hope that perhaps, from all this upheaval, something healthier might eventually emerge, for Tyler, for Amber, for me. Not for Michael, though. Some bridges once burned cannot be rebuilt. A month passed quickly in my new life. Each day had a rhythm entirely of my own making. Mornings at the community college archives, afternoons walking the beach or exploring the town, evenings reading or attending local events. I joined the book club permanently, started yoga classes, at a studio overlooking the harbor, and even signed up for a weekend pottery workshop. My small cottage slowly transformed with touches that were uniquely mine. Paintings from local artists, driftwood sculptures I collected on beach walks, colorful throw pillows that Michael would have dismissed as cluttering the aesthetic. I planted a small herb garden on the deck and cooked simple meals for myself, discovering tastes I actually preferred when not catering to others' preferences. The legal process continued in the background. Patricia filed our counter to Michael's. Divorce petition, requesting half of all marital assets, temporary support during proceedings, and permanent alimony afterward. Michael's lawyer responded with outrage and a significantly improved offer, which Patricia advised we reject as still inadequate. He's testing boundaries, she explained. Seeing how little you'll accept, stand firm. I was standing firm in other ways, too. I'd established a new checking account at a local bank, redirected my community college paychecks there, and applied for my own credit card. Small steps toward financial independence, but significant ones. Anna visited one weekend, marveling at the tranquility of my new home. "You seem different," she observed as we walked the beach at sunset. "Lighter somehow." "I feel different," I admitted. "For the first time in decades, every decision I make is for myself, not in service to someone else's comfort or convenience." "Michael's still fuming," she reported. "He showed up at my house again last week, demanding to know if I'd visited you." "I think he had me followed." I stopped walking. "That's disturbing." Jackson confronted him, told him if he came to our house again, he'd call the police. She squeezed my hand. "Don't worry, he's all bluster. His lawyer must be telling him to back off because he hasn't tried anything since." I wasn't so sure. Michael had always been controlled in public, saving his coldest anger for private moments. The Michael who scheduled his life in 15-minute increments and considered emotional displays vulgar wouldn't create public scenes. But that didn't mean he'd accepted defeat. My concern proved justified when I received a call from Georgina the following Tuesday. "Susan, I need to warn you. Michael came to dinner last night and spent the entire evening questioning Jackson about where you might be. He kept mentioning the Oregon coast, asking if we knew anyone there." My blood ran cold. "How would he know I'm in Oregon?" "I'm not sure. But he said something about tracking Anna's car through her insurance app when she visited you." I immediately called Patricia, who advised changing my routine for a few days and documenting any unusual occurrences. "If he shows up, don't engage. Call the police immediately." That evening, I stayed inside with the curtains drawn, jumping at every sound. The cottage that had felt like a sanctuary now seemed exposed and vulnerable. I considered finding a hotel for a few nights, but rejected the idea as giving Michael too much power over my choices. The next day passed without incident, as did the one after. I began to relax, thinking perhaps Michael had just been fishing for information rather than actually knowing my location. Then, exactly 1 month after I'd left, my phone rang with Amber's number. I almost didn't answer, but something, intuition perhaps, made me pick up. "Susan?" Her voice sounded different, smaller, less assured. "Yes, Amber." She took a shaky breath. "I'm sorry to call you like this, but I didn't know who else to talk to. What's wrong?" "It's Michael. He's not doing well." Another breath. "He showed up at our house last night, completely drunk. He was ranting about finding you, making you face consequences." Tyler tried to calm him down, but Michael just got angrier. He broke things. A lamp. Pictures. Tyler finally had to physically remove him from the house. I closed my eyes. Picturing the scene. Michael, always so controlled, coming completely undone. "Where is he now?" I asked. "I don't know." Tyler followed him home to make sure he got there safely, but then Michael got in his car this morning and drove off. He's not answering calls or texts. "Have you contacted the police?" "No," she said quickly. "Tyler doesn't want to involve them. He says it would humiliate Michael professionally if he got picked up for drunk driving or something." I felt a flash of irritation, still protecting Michael's image rather than addressing the actual problem. "Amber, listen to me. If Michael is driving erratically or making threats, the police need to be involved. This isn't about protecting reputations anymore." But Tyler says, Tyler is still thinking like Michael's son, not like an objective adult. Michael needs help, not protection from consequences. There was silence on the other end. Then, in a small voice, "I think he might be looking for you." Tyler found MapQuest directions to coastal towns in Oregon on Michael's computer. I felt a chill run through me. "Amber, call the police now. Tell them everything you've just told me." "I can't do that to the family. This isn't about the family. It's about preventing something worse from happening." I paused, choosing my words carefully. "Amber, The way Michael's behaving isn't normal grief or anger. It's escalation, and it's dangerous. To himself, and potentially to others. He wouldn't hurt anyone, she protested, but with less conviction. He's just upset about losing you. He hasn't lost me like a possession, Amber. I left an unhealthy situation. I softened my tone. I understand this is difficult for all of you, but enabling Michael's behavior won't help him or anyone else. After more persuasion, she reluctantly agreed to talk to Tyler about contacting authorities. I hung up and immediately called Patricia, who advised me to notify local police about the potential threat and possibly relocate temporarily. I was packing an overnight bag when my doorbell rang. My heart froze. The cottage had no peephole, so I approached the window cautiously and peered through a gap in the curtains. It wasn't Michael standing on my porch. It was Amber, her face tear-stained, a small suitcase at her feet. "Susan?" she called through the door. "Please." I didn't know where else to go. "Michael's looking for you and I'm scared. Please help us." I opened the door cautiously. "Amber? How did you find me?" She looked terrible. Designer clothes wrinkled, makeup smudged from crying, blonde hair pulled. Back in a messy ponytail. Nothing like the polished, perfect daughter-in-law who'd called me just the cleaner a month ago. "Tyler tracked Anna's phone the last time she visited you," she admitted, wiping her eyes. "He was worried about you." I felt a stab of betrayal. My own son, invading my privacy while pretending concern. "Come inside," I said, glancing past her to make sure she was alone. "Where is Tyler?" "Looking for Michael." She stepped into the cottage, clutching her designer handbag like a shield. "He dropped me at a hotel in town, but I was too scared to stay there. What if Michael found me? What if he thought I knew where you were?" I closed and locked the door. "Start from the beginning. Tell me exactly what happened after we spoke earlier." Amber sank onto my sofa, looking completely out of place among my casual, comfortable furnishings. "Tyler and I argued about calling the police. He kept saying we needed to handle this in the family. Then Michael called him." "What did he say?" "He was different. Calm. Said he'd been emotional but was thinking clearly now. Apologized for the scene at our house." She twisted her wedding ring nervously. "Tyler was relieved, but something felt wrong to me. Michael asked all these questions about where Tyler thought you might be, whether Anna had mentioned visiting you." My concern deepened. Michael's sudden calm was more alarming than his previous outbursts. I'd seen this pattern before, the ice-cold calculation that followed emotional storms. Then what happened? Tyler let something slip about Anna's recent trip to the coast. After they hung up, he realized his mistake and tried calling Michael back, but he wouldn't answer. That's when we checked Michael's computer and found the MapQuest directions. "And Tyler brought you here instead of staying with you?" She looked down. "He said he needed to find Michael before Michael found you, that he was the only one who could talk sense into his father." Her voice broke. "I've never seen Tyler so scared. Not even when we thought we might lose the baby during my pregnancy." I paused, processing this new information. "You have a child?" Amber nodded. "Sophia. She's 18 months old. She's with my parents right now." Tears filled her eyes. "Susan, I know you hate me and you have every right to. I was horrible to you. But please, I don't know what to do. Michael's not himself, and Tyler's out there trying to find him, and I'm terrified something awful is going to happen." I took a deep breath, pushing aside my complicated feelings about this woman who had treated me with such casual disdain. Whatever. Our past, the situation now required clear thinking. "First, we need to call the police," I said firmly, reaching for my phone. "Michael's state of mind sounds concerning, and Tyler shouldn't be trying to handle this alone. But the scandal is nothing compared to what could happen if Michael's as unstable as he sounds." I dialed the local police department, explaining the situation as calmly as I could. My estranged husband's erratic behavior, his possible journey to find me, my son's ill-advised pursuit. The officer took the information seriously, promising to send a patrol car to my cottage and to be on the lookout for both Michael and Tyler. I provided descriptions of both men and their vehicles. After hanging up, I turned back to Amber, who sat hunched on my sofa looking utterly lost. A far cry from the confident socialite who had dismissed me so easily at the anniversary dinner. "I should call my attorney," I said, dialing Patricia's number. She answered immediately, and I quickly outlined the situation. "Stay inside with the doors locked," she advised. "I'm filing for an emergency protective order first thing in the morning. Document everything. Amber's statement, any messages from Michael or Tyler, everything." After we hung up, an awkward silence filled the cottage. Amber looked around, taking in the modest space with its simple furnishings and personal touches. "It's nice," she said finally. "Cozy." "Thank you," I replied, still not sure what to make of her presence. "Would you like some tea?" She nodded, and I moved to the kitchen, grateful for the familiar ritual of filling the kettle, selecting tea bags, arranging cups on a tray. As I waited for the water to boil, I watched Amber from the corner of my eye. She sat with perfect posture, despite her distress, hands folded in her lap, the product of expensive finishing schools and a mother who valued appearances above all. "I didn't know you had a daughter," I said, bringing the tea tray to the coffee table. Amber accepted a cup, her hands trembling slightly. "We didn't tell many people when I got pregnant. It wasn't planned." The implication hung in the air. An unplanned pregnancy, a hasty marriage. Suddenly, pieces began falling into place. Tyler's sudden career shift to work for Carter, the lavish lifestyle they couldn't possibly afford on a starting executive's salary, Amber's constant anxiety about maintaining appearances. "So you and Tyler got married because of Sophia?" She stared into her tea. "My father was furious, said Tyler wasn't good enough for me, that he was just using me to advance his career. But I was 23 and thought I was in love." A bitter laugh escaped her. "Maybe I was. I don't even know anymore." I absorbed this revelation, recalibrating my understanding of their relationship. "Does Tyler love Sophia?" Amber's expression softened. "He adores her. Whatever else is wrong. Between us, he's a wonderful father." She paused. "That's what scares me most about tonight. Tyler's never been confrontational, especially not with Michael. But when it comes to protecting his family..." She looked up, meeting my eyes directly. "He said he couldn't let Michael's breakdown hurt you or Sophia or me." A mixture of pride and fear washed over me. My son, standing up to his father at last. But at what risk? "Tell me about Sophia," I said, partly to distract Amber, partly because I genuinely wanted to know about the granddaughter I'd barely met. For the first time, Amber's face lit up. "She's amazing, so smart. She already knows all her colors and can count to 10. And she's fearless, climbs everything, tries everything." She pulled out her phone, scrolling to photos of a beautiful toddler with Tyler's dark hair and Amber's delicate features. "She has your eyes," Amber said softly. "Tyler's always saying that. She has my mom's eyes." Something shifted in my chest, a loosening of the hard knot of resentment I'd carried. Not forgiveness, not yet, but perhaps the beginning of understanding. The moment was broken by the sound of car doors slamming outside. We both froze. I moved to the window, carefully peering through the curtains. "It's the police," I said with relief, watching 2 officers approach my door. I opened it before they could knock. "Mrs. Thompson, I'm Officer Mendez. This is Officer Chen. We'd like to ask you a few questions about your husband and son." I invited them in, introducing Amber and explaining our situation more fully. They took notes, radioed in Michael and Tyler's information, and assured us they would patrol the area regularly throughout the night. We've also alerted state troopers to be on the lookout for their vehicles, Officer Mendez said. Is there somewhere else you could stay tonight? A friend's house, perhaps? I thought of Margaret from the bookstore, or Elena from the college, but hesitated to involve them in my family drama. We'll be fine here, I decided. The doors are solid, and there's only one road in. You'll see anyone approaching. After the officers left, promising to check back hourly, I made up the sofa for Amber with sheets and blankets from the linen closet. I'm sorry there's not a guest room, I said. Please, she replied with a self-deprecating laugh. After everything I've said and done, I should be sleeping on the floor. I turned to her, really looking at this woman who had entered my life and turned it upside down. Why did you do it, Amber? At the dinner? Why call me just the cleaner? She flinched as if I'd slapped her. I was showing off, she admitted after a long moment. For my mother. For Tyler. Trying to prove I belonged in their world, the sophisticated daughter-in-law, the perfect wife. She met my eyes briefly, then looked away. The truth is, I've always felt like an imposter. Like everyone could see I didn't belong. That's why I clung so hard to the status, the appearances. And now? Now I'm sitting in the living room of the woman I insulted, terrified that my husband might be in danger, that my father-in-law might have lost his mind, and that my entire carefully constructed life is falling apart. She wiped away fresh tears. I don't know who I am anymore without all the pretense. The raw honesty of her admission caught me off guard. Before I could respond, my phone rang. Tyler's number. I answered immediately, putting it on speaker. Tyler, where are you? His voice came through, tense and breathless. Mom, thank God. Is Amber with you? Yes, she's here. We're both fine. The police have been notified. Good. Listen, I found Dad. Tyler hesitated. He's not well, Mom. I've convinced him to check into Meadowbrook. Meadowbrook, the private psychiatric facility where Michael's brother had been treated for depression years ago. He agreed to this? I asked, disbelieving. After I told him the alternative was me calling the police and having him picked up for threats and erratic behavior. Tyler's voice cracked. I'm with him now at the intake office. He's broken, Mom. I've never seen him like this. Amber squeezed my hand, her eyes wide with concern. You did the right thing, Tyler, I said firmly. Are you safe? Yes. There's security here. Dad's talking to a doctor now. He took a shaky breath. Mom, he kept saying he was going to make you regret leaving, that he'd take everything from you, leave you with nothing. He had a gun in the car. A chill ran through me. Michael, always so controlled, so concerned with appearances, driving across state lines with a gun, intent on… What? Threatening me? Worse? You saved him from himself, I said softly. That took enormous courage. I was so scared, Tyler admitted, his voice small like the little boy who'd once called me when he had nightmares. Not just of what he might do to you, but of what he might become. What I might become if I let this happen. Amber was silently crying now, clutching a throw pillow. To her chest. Where do we go from here? Tyler asked. I looked at Amber, this woman who had entered my family as an adversary but now sat vulnerable and human before me. At the photos of Sophia, the granddaughter I'd barely had a chance to know. At the cottage that had become my sanctuary, but now felt like just one chapter of a continuing story. I don't know exactly, I said honestly, but we'll figure it out, together. Dawn broke over the ocean in streaks of pink and gold, finding Amber and me still awake, talking through the night after Tyler's call. He had stayed at Meadowbrook until Michael was formally admitted, then checked into a nearby hotel, promising to drive to the coast in the morning. We'd covered territory I never expected to explore with my daughter-in-law, her privileged but emotionally barren childhood with parents who valued appearance over authenticity, her unplanned pregnancy and rushed marriage, her terror of failing to meet the expectations of the Westbrook name. I thought if I could just be perfect enough, sophisticated enough, then everyone would forget I was just a salesgirl at a boutique when Tyler met me, she admitted. Not Wellesley-educated like my mother wanted, not from the right family like my father expected. So you created a persona, I said, understanding dawning. The flawless society wife. She nodded, exhaustion etching lines around her eyes, and I was so afraid of that persona cracking that I pushed away anyone who might see through it. Including me. Especially you. She twisted her wedding ring. You were everything I wasn't. Confident in your place in the family, respected by Michael, adored by Tyler. I felt like an intruder, so I tried to make you the outsider instead. The honesty was refreshing, if painful. Whatever came next, we had at least broken through the polite fictions that had defined our relationship. Tyler arrived mid-morning, looking haggard but resolute. He embraced Amber first, then turned to me with uncertainty in his eyes. "Mom," he began, then stopped, words failing him. I opened my arms, and he stepped into them, burying his face in my shoulder, like he had as a child after skinned knees and playground rejections. I held him tightly, feeling the tremor in his shoulders. "I'm so sorry," he whispered. "For everything. For not defending you. For letting Dad control everything. For tracking you down after you clearly wanted space. You found me because you were worried," I acknowledged. "But Tyler, invading my privacy wasn't the right way." He nodded against my shoulder. "I know. I didn't know what else to do. Dad was spiraling and I was scared for both of you. We moved to the deck, where I made coffee while Tyler recounted the previous night's events. Michael had indeed been searching coastal towns, methodically working his way north. When Tyler intercepted him at a gas station, Michael had been eerily calm, explaining his plan to reason with me, with a loaded gun in the car for protection. "He kept saying you weren't thinking clearly, that you needed to be protected from yourself," Tyler explained. "It was like he'd created this whole narrative where he was the reasonable one and you were having some kind of breakdown." "Projection," I murmured, thinking of Michael's threats to have me declared incompetent. "The psychiatrist at Meadowbrook thinks he's having a narcissistic injury response," Tyler continued. "She said people who base their entire identity on control and status sometimes fracture when that identity is threatened." "Will he be okay?" Amber asked, her hand in Tyler's. "They're keeping him for at least 2 weeks for observation and treatment." Tyler looked at me. "They asked if you would consider coming in for a family session at some point, but I told them that was entirely up to you. I considered this, watching the waves below. I need to think about it. Right now, I'm still processing the fact that my husband of 32 years was driving around with a gun, looking for me." Tyler flinched. "I still can't believe it either. Dad's always been so contained." "Too contained," I said quietly. He never learned healthy ways to express emotion. So when something finally broke through that control, we sat in silence for a moment, 3 people bound by family ties, but still learning how to truly see each other. "What happens now?" Amber finally asked, the question directed at no one in particular. "Now," I said, "we take one day at a time. Michael gets the help he needs. The divorce proceeds as planned. And we, the 3 of us, figure out what kind of relationship we want going forward." Tyler looked up sharply. "You're still going through with the divorce? Even after all this?" "Especially after all this." I met his gaze steadily. "Tyler, your father's behavior only confirms that our marriage isn't healthy. That doesn't mean I don't care what happens to him, but I can't go back." He nodded slowly. "I understand. I think I was holding on to this idea of our family the way it used to be. But that wasn't real, was it? It was just what I saw as a kid, not what was actually happening. Children see their parents through a different lens, I acknowledged. It's natural. I don't want Sophia to see me and Amber that way, he said firmly. Pretending everything's perfect when it's not. I want her to see real people, even when it's messy. Amber squeezed his hand. We should go get her from my parents. I miss her. I'd like to meet her properly, I said. When things are calmer. She should know her grandmother, Tyler agreed. Her real grandmother, not just the role. We spent the day talking, really talking, about the past and the possible future. Tyler and Amber would return to the city that evening, picking up Sophia from the Westbrooks and beginning the process of rebuilding their own relationship on more honest footing. I would stay in my cottage, continuing my work at the archives and the independent life I was creating. We could visit sometimes, Tyler suggested tentatively. If that's okay with you. Maybe once a month. Sophia would love the beach. I'd like that, I said, meaning it. As they prepared to leave, Amber approached me awkwardly. Susan, I know one conversation doesn't fix everything I've done. The way I treated you was inexcusable. It was, I agreed, not softening the truth. But recognizing that is a start. I want to do better. Be better. She hesitated. Not just for Tyler or Sophia, but for myself too. Seeing you here, creating this new life on your own terms, it's inspiring. The compliment, so unexpected from this source, caught me off guard. Thank you. Could we start over? She asked hesitantly. Not pretend the past didn't happen, but maybe build something new, for Sophia's sake, if nothing else. I considered her offer, this olive branch from the woman who had called me just the cleaner, and catalyzed the unraveling of my old life. Not so long ago, I might have reflexively agreed, prioritizing family harmony over my own feelings. But that Susan was gone. I'd like to try, I said carefully. But slowly, with boundaries. I'm still finding my own way, and I need that space. She nodded, accepting my terms. That's fair. More than fair. As they drove away, I stood on my deck watching until their car disappeared around the coastal bend. The conversation had been exhausting but necessary, the first honest exchange we'd ever had as a family. I turned back to my cottage, my space, my sanctuary, and felt the weight of the last 24 hours settle over me. Michael's breakdown, Tyler's intervention, Amber's unexpected vulnerability. So much to process, to integrate into my understanding of the family I'd thought I knew. But for the first time, I faced these complications not as the family peacekeeper, responsible for smoothing every wrinkle, but as Susan, just Susan, navigating relationships on my own terms. That evening, I called Anna to update her on everything that had happened. So Amber actually apologized? She asked, incredulous. Genuinely? Seems that way, I replied. People can surprise you when their carefully constructed worlds fall apart. And you're really considering family therapy sessions with Michael? I sighed, watching the sunset paint the waves. I don't know yet, not while he's still in crisis. But eventually, maybe. Not to salvage the marriage, but to find some kind of closure. Just be careful, Anna warned. Narcissists are most dangerous when they realize they've truly lost control. I know. I thought of the gun in Michael's car, what might have happened if Tyler hadn't intervened. Believe me, I know. 2 weeks after Michael's commitment to Meadowbrook, my life had settled into a new rhythm. My work at the community college archives expanded to 3 days a week when Elena recognized my expertise. I joined a local historical society, volunteering to help catalog artifacts from the town's fishing industry past. On weekends, I took long walks on the beach, collected shells, and sometimes joined Margaret from the bookstore for coffee and conversation. The legal process continued without drama. Michael's erratic behavior and subsequent psychiatric admission had changed the power dynamics completely. His lawyer, once aggressive and dismissive, now approached Patricia with reasonable settlement offers and minimal pushback. He's worried about how a court battle would look, Patricia explained during our weekly call. A high-profile businessman, having a breakdown and threatening his wife with a gun? Career suicide. They want this wrapped up quietly. I felt a complex mixture of emotions, relief that the fight was draining from the divorce proceedings, sadness for the man I had once loved reduced to damage control, and a lingering wariness about what might happen when Michael was released from treatment. Tyler called regularly with updates. Dad's therapist says he's making progress, he reported, recognizing patterns of control, working through anger management techniques. He's on medication now. That's good, I said, meaning it despite everything. I didn't wish Michael ill. I just couldn't be responsible for his well-being anymore. He's asked about you, Tyler added cautiously. Whether you might come for a family session next week. I'd been considering this since Tyler first mentioned it. Part of me wanted nothing to do with family therapy. I'd moved on, was building my new life. But another part recognized that for true closure, perhaps one final conversation was necessary. I'll think about it, I promised. That evening, as I prepared a simple dinner for myself, pasta with fresh herbs from my deck garden, I found myself reflecting on the past 6 weeks. The woman who had stood silently serving anniversary dinner while being called just the cleaner seemed like a stranger now. Had I really tolerated such dismissal, such invisibility for so many years? The thought led me to pull out a journal I'd started keeping since moving to the cottage. Flipping through the pages, I traced my evolution in real time, from the raw hurt and anger of those first entries to the gradual emergence of a more confident voice, dreams and plans taking shape with each passing day. I wrote a new entry, attempting to make sense of my feelings about potentially seeing Michael again. I'm not the same person who left 6 weeks ago. That Susan was wounded, reactive, escaping. This Susan is choosing, building, becoming. If I do see Michael again, it will be from this new foundation, not as his wife, not as Tyler's mother, but as myself. Just myself. The next morning, I called Meadowbrook and spoke with Michael's treatment team. Dr. Levine, his primary therapist, was cautiously optimistic about including me in a session. Michael has been doing important work recognizing his controlling behaviors and sense of entitlement, she explained. A facilitated conversation with you could be beneficial for his recovery process, and perhaps provide closure for you both. I have conditions, I said firmly. I won't be alone with him. I won't discuss reconciliation, and I need to be able to leave at any point if I feel uncomfortable. Of course, she agreed. Those are very reasonable boundaries. We scheduled the session for the following Tuesday. I immediately called Patricia to inform her of my decision. Are you sure about this? She asked, concern evident in her voice. No, I admitted. But I think I need it for closure. And it might help Michael move forward, too. If you're going, I'd like to accompany you, she said. Not into the therapy session itself, but I can wait outside, just in case. I accepted her offer gratefully, touched by her protectiveness. Over the weekend, Tyler, Amber, and Sophia visited as promised. Seeing my granddaughter properly for the first time was a revelation. This bright-eyed, chattering toddler who had my eyes and Tyler's determined chin. She approached the world with fearless curiosity, examining my shell collection with serious concentration, chasing seagulls on the beach with delighted squeals. Gamma, she called me, unable to manage Grandma yet. The sound pierced straight to my heart. Watching Tyler with his daughter, I saw a different side of my son. Patient, attentive, completely present in a way Michael had never been with him. And Amber, though still learning the practical skills of motherhood, loved Sophia with a fierce protectiveness that transcended her concerns about appearances. They were finding their way as parents, as partners, as individuals. The crisis of the past weeks had stripped away pretenses, forcing honesty where there had been careful performance. "We've started couples therapy," Tyler confided as we watched Amber help Sophia build a sandcastle. "It's hard, but good. We're talking about things we should have addressed years ago." "I'm proud of you," I told him, meaning it deeply. "Breaking cycles takes courage." "I learned from you," he said simply. "Watching you choose yourself after all these years, it made me realize I had choices too. We all do." The visit left me both energized and emotionally drained. After they left, I spent Sunday preparing myself mentally for the upcoming meeting with Michael. I made lists of things I wanted to say, boundaries I needed to maintain, outcomes I hoped for. By evening, I felt as ready as I could be. Monday brought an unexpected call from Carter Westbrook. "Susan," he began without preamble, "I understand you're meeting with Michael tomorrow." "How did you know that?" I asked, surprised. "Tyler mentioned it to Amber, who told Lena, who told me." He cleared his throat. "I wanted to express my concern and my apology." "Your apology?" "For not seeing what was happening, for encouraging Tyler's career at the expense of his backbone, for allowing Amber's worst tendencies to flourish unchallenged." He paused. "I've been thinking a great deal about the example I've set for my daughter, about the values I've prioritized. Coming from Carter, imperious, uncompromising Carter, this self-reflection was astonishing." "What brought this on?" I asked. "Seeing my granddaughter growing up in a family following the same patterns that made my daughter so insecure, so desperate for validation." Another pause. "And, frankly, seeing Michael's complete breakdown. We're the same age, came up in business, together. It's been sobering." I wasn't sure how to respond to this unexpected vulnerability from a man who had always seemed carved from granite. "Thank you for telling me this," I said finally. "Be careful tomorrow," he added, before hanging up. "Michael may seem changed, but men like us, we don't surrender control easily." His warning stayed with me as I packed an overnight bag for the trip to Meadowbrook. Whatever awaited me there, I would face it as the woman I was becoming, not the woman I had been. The Susan who had been called just the cleaner no longer existed. In her place stood someone stronger, clearer, and finally, irrevocably, herself. Meadowbrook Psychiatric Center resembled an exclusive country club more than a mental health facility. Manicured grounds, a discreet entrance, understated luxury, in every detail. It was exactly the kind of place Michael would choose, where wealth cushioned even breakdown and recovery came with premium amenities. Patricia accompanied me as promised, her calm professionalism steadying my nerves as we checked in at reception. "I'll be right here," she assured me, settling into a plush waiting area with her tablet. "Take all the time you need." Dr. Levine met me personally, a petite woman with silver-streaked dark hair and intelligent eyes behind stylish glasses. She led me through hushed corridors to a comfortable consultation room with windows overlooking a Japanese garden. "Michael will join us shortly," she explained, gesturing me to a seat. "Before he does, I want to review the structure of this session. I'll facilitate, but this is primarily an opportunity for controlled communication between you two. You've set clear boundaries about reconciliation discussions, which I've shared with Michael. If at any point you feel uncomfortable, simply say, 'I need a moment,' and we'll pause." Does that sound acceptable? I nodded, hands clasped tightly in my lap. Despite my careful preparation, my heart raced at the prospect of facing Michael again. The last time I'd seen him had been the morning I left, him sleeping, unaware that by the time he returned from his Chicago trip, I would be gone. The door opened, and Michael entered. I barely recognized him. Always meticulously groomed, he now had untrimmed hair, a shadow of beard, and had lost enough weight that his tailored pajamas hung loosely on his frame. But the most striking change was in his eyes. The confident, often cold gaze replaced by something wary and uncertain. "Susan." His voice was hoarse as if unused. "Hello, Michael." He sat across from me, hands fidgeting in a way the old Michael never would have allowed. Dr. Levine settled between us, notebook ready. "Thank you both for agreeing to this session," she began. "Michael, would you like to start with what we discussed?" He nodded, drawing a deep breath. "I want to apologize, Susan. For many things, but especially for my behavior after you left. The threats, the manipulation, the gun." His voice caught. "I don't recognize the person I became. I studied him, this diminished version of the commanding man I'd been married to for 32 years. Thank you for that apology," I said carefully. "I appreciate you taking responsibility for those actions." "There's more," he continued, glancing at Dr. Levine, who nodded encouragement. "I've been working to understand why I reacted so extremely to your leaving. Dr. Levine has helped me see patterns I was blind to, how I've always needed to control everything and everyone around me, how I treated you as property rather than a partner." The admission hung in the air between us, surprising in its self-awareness, yet confirming what I'd felt for years but couldn't articulate. "When you left," he continued, "it wasn't just losing my wife. It was losing my sense of how the world worked. In my mind, you were the stable element. The one thing I could always count on, always control. When that was gone, I broke. I wasn't stable because I was naturally that way, Michael," I said quietly. "I was stable because I suppressed everything else, my desires, my opinions, my very self, to maintain the life you wanted." He flinched but nodded. "I see that now. I didn't then." Dr. Levine turned to me. "Susan, would you like to share some of what you've been experiencing since leaving?" I took a moment to gather my thoughts. "I've been discovering who I am apart from being your wife, Michael. Working again, making new friends, creating a life that reflects my choices, not just my obligations. It's been awakening." "You seem different," he observed. "Stronger." "I am stronger. When I left, I was running away from pain. Now I'm moving towards something else. A life that's authentically mine." I paused, choosing my next words carefully. "I need you to understand that I'm not coming back, Michael. Not to our marriage, not to our old life. That chapter is closed." His jaw tightened momentarily, a flash of the old Michael, the one used to getting his way, before he mastered himself. "I understand. The divorce proceedings will continue. I've instructed my lawyer to be reasonable about the settlement." "Thank you," I acknowledged. "That's respectful." "What about afterward?" he asked, an edge of desperation creeping into his voice. "When I'm released, when the divorce is final, will we have any relationship at all? For Tyler's sake? For Sophia's?" This was the question I'd been contemplating since agreeing to the session. What kind of connection, if any, could exist between us after everything that had happened? "I don't know yet," I answered honestly. "Right now, I need distance to continue, healing and building my new life. Perhaps someday we can have some kind of cordial relationship as Sophia's grandparents. But that won't happen quickly, and it will depend on your continued work on yourself." He nodded, disappointment evident, but controlled. "I understand. I'm committed to the work. Not just for any future relationship with you, but for myself, for Tyler, for my own sanity." Dr. Levine guided us through the remainder of the session, facilitating conversations about practical matters, the house, possessions, financial arrangements. Michael was unexpectedly amenable to everything, agreeing that I should keep my car, receive half the value of the house, and obtain generous alimony given my sacrifices for his career. As the session drew to a close, Michael asked if he could say one more thing. "Susan, I want you to know that despite my failures as a husband, and they were many, I did love you. Not in the right way, not in a healthy way, but in the only way. I knew how." His voice broke slightly. "I'm sorry that wasn't enough, that I wasn't enough." The raw vulnerability in his admission caught me off guard. For a moment, I glimpsed the young man I'd fallen in love with decades ago, before ambition hardened him, before control became his religion. "Thank you for saying that," I replied softly. "I loved you too, Michael, for many years. But love without respect, without true partnership, it hollows out over time." He nodded, eyes downcast. "I understand that now. Too late, but I understand." As Dr. Levine wrapped up the session, Michael asked hesitantly, "Would it be all right if I called you sometimes? Just to check in? I promise. To respect your boundaries." I considered his request. "Let's start with email. Less immediate. More time to think before responding. I can't promise quick replies or any particular outcome, but I'm willing to keep that door slightly open." Relief washed over his face. "Thank you. That's more than I deserve." When I rejoined Patricia in the waiting area, she studied my expression carefully. "How did it go?" "Better than I expected," I admitted. "Harder in some ways, easier in others." "And how do you feel?" I thought about Michael, diminished yet somehow more human than he'd been in years, and about myself, standing firmly, in my own truth without anger or fear dominating the interaction. "I feel free," I realized. Not because of anything he said or did, but because facing him confirmed what I already knew. I've moved beyond needing his approval or fearing his control. Whatever happens next, I'm going to be okay. As we drove, away from Meadowbrook, I watched the imposing building recede in the side mirror. So much of my life had been defined by my relationship with the man inside those walls. Now, for better or worse, we were both becoming something new. Separate selves emerging from the shell of a marriage that had both nurtured and confined us. As we drove away from Meadowbrook, I watched the imposing building recede in the side mirror. So much of my life had been defined by my relationship with the man inside those walls. Now, for better or worse, we were both becoming something new. Separate selves emerging from the shell of a marriage that had both nurtured and confined us. "You did well in there," Patricia said as we merged onto the highway. Standing your ground while still showing compassion is difficult, especially with someone who held so much power in your life. It felt different than I expected, I admitted. I thought I'd feel angry seeing him or scared, but instead I just felt clear. Like I was finally seeing our relationship for what it really was. "That's a significant breakthrough," she noted. "Many of my clients struggle for years to achieve that kind of perspective." We drove in comfortable silence for a while, the coastal landscape gradually replacing the manicured suburbs surrounding Meadowbrook. I found myself thinking about Michael's apology, not just the words, but the genuine remorse behind them. It didn't erase the past or change my decision, but it offered a kind of closure I hadn't realized I needed. "What will you do now?" Patricia asked as we neared my cottage. "Keep building," I replied. "My job at the archives, my new friendships, my relationship with Tyler and Sophia. One day at a time," she smiled. "From what I've seen, you're already doing that quite successfully." That evening, alone in my cottage with the sound of waves as company, I wrote a long entry in my journal, processing the day's emotional landscape. The Michael I'd seen today was both familiar and strange. Glimpses of the man I'd married mixed with a vulnerability I'd never witnessed in 32 years together. I found myself hoping, genuinely, that he would find healing, not for my sake, or even for potential reconciliation, but for himself, for Tyler, for Sophia. His breakdown had revealed cracks in the foundation of our family, but perhaps from those cracks, something healthier might grow. As I closed my journal and prepared for bed, I realized I had accomplished something significant. I had faced my past without being reclaimed by it. The woman who had driven to Meadowbrook was not the same woman who had been called just the cleaner at that fateful dinner, and she never would be again. A month after my visit to Meadowbrook, life had settled into a new normal. The divorce. Proceedings moved forward without drama, with Michael honoring his promise to be reasonable about the settlement. We communicated occasionally via email, brief, cordial exchanges about practical matters, with occasional updates about our separate lives. Michael was still at Meadowbrook, now in their step-down program that allowed more independence while continuing treatment. According to Tyler, he was making genuine progress, attending group therapy, reconnecting with his estranged brother, even taking up painting as a therapeutic outlet. Meanwhile, my own life continued to expand. The community college offered me a permanent position organizing their archives, which I happily accepted. I joined a women's hiking group that explored coastal trails every weekend. I started taking cooking classes at a local restaurant, learning to prepare seafood dishes that reflected my new coastal home. Tyler, Amber, and Sophia visited regularly, their relationship with me evolving into something deeper and more authentic than what we'd had before. Amber and I would never be best friends, but we'd found a mutual respect that made our interactions comfortable rather than strained. "We're looking at houses in this area," Tyler mentioned during one visit, as we watched Sophia chase seagulls on the beach. "Nothing too close, we don't want to invade your space, but maybe within an hour's drive." "Really?" I was surprised but touched. "What about your job with Carter?" "I quit," he said simply. "Decided I'd rather build my own career than ride on Amber's family connections. I've taken a position with a marine conservation nonprofit. Less money, but work I actually care about." Amber, joining us with a sandy Sophia in her arms, added, "And I'm starting classes at the community college in the fall. Graphic design." She looked almost shy. "I've always liked art but never thought I could make anything of it." I watched them. My son finding his own path. My daughter-in-law discovering herself beyond the socialite role. My granddaughter growing up with parents who were striving for authenticity rather than appearances. Despite everything, something good had emerged from the upheaval of the past months. One evening, as I walked along the beach at sunset, my phone rang with an unfamiliar number. "Susan? It's Lena Westbrook." Surprised, I answered cautiously. "Hello." "Lena, I hope I'm not intruding," she said, her usual crisp tone softened somewhat. "I wanted to let you know that Carter and I are considering a trial separation." "I'm sorry to hear that," I replied, unsure why she was sharing this with me. "Are you?" She sounded genuinely curious. "After everything that's happened?" I considered. My answer carefully. "I don't wish unhappiness on anyone, Lena, even when relationships have been complicated." She was quiet for a moment. "You know, when you left Michael, I thought you were being selfish and dramatic. But watching Amber these past few months, seeing her discover who she is beyond being Carter's daughter or Tyler's wife, it's made me wonder what I might have become if I hadn't spent 40 years defining myself through Carter's success." The vulnerability in her admission caught me off guard. "It's never too late to find out, Lena. That's why I'm calling, actually. For advice. You've made this transition look not easy, but possible. I thought perhaps you might be willing to share your experience." I stood at the edge of the ocean, waves lapping at my feet, considering the strange turns life takes. Here was Lena Westbrook, imperious, judgmental Lena, reaching out for guidance from the woman her daughter had once dismissed as just the cleaner. "I'm happy to talk," I told her, "but my path won't be yours. Each of us has to find our own way." "I understand," she said quietly, but it helps to know someone else has walked this road before. As the sun sank into the Pacific, casting golden light across the water, I realized how far I'd come from that painful night at the anniversary dinner. I'd lost a marriage but found myself. And somehow, improbably, that journey was inspiring others to examine their own lives, their own choices. Perhaps that was the most unexpected outcome of all. The divorce was finalized on a crisp autumn morning, 6 months after I'd walked away from my old life. The terms were more than fair. Half of our marital assets, the beach house in Florida, now with a new roof, courtesy of Michael, generous alimony, and a clean break emotionally. I signed the papers in Patricia's office, feeling neither triumph nor regret, just a quiet certainty that I was following the right path. "Congratulations," Patricia said, shaking my hand. "You handled this with remarkable grace." "Thank you for your guidance," I replied. "I couldn't have done it without you." That evening, I received an unexpected email from Michael. "Susan, I've been informed that our divorce is now final. I want to thank you for your fairness throughout this process. My therapist says I should express my feelings directly, so here goes. I miss the life we had, but I understand now why it couldn't continue. You deserved more than I was capable of giving. I'll be discharged from Meadowbrook next week. Tyler has offered to let me stay with them temporarily while I find my own place. I'm considering something in the coastal area, but I want to assure you that I won't intrude on the life you've built. Before I leave Meadowbrook, I have one request. Would you meet me for coffee at the facility's garden cafe? Just one conversation, face to face, as the people we are now rather than the people we were. No pressure, no expectations, just closure perhaps, or a new beginning as whatever we might become to each other in this next chapter. Regardless of your answer, I wish you happiness in your new life. You've earned it." Michael, I read the message several times, uncertain how to respond. Part of me was wary. This could be manipulation, an attempt to pull me back into orbit around him. But another part recognized the changed tone, the respect for boundaries, the absence of demands. After talking it over with Anna, I decided to accept his invitation. My new life was strong enough, my sense of self secure enough, to withstand a single conversation. The garden cafe at Meadowbrook was lovely. Flowering plants, stone pathways, a small fountain creating gentle background music. Michael was already seated when I arrived, dressed in casual clothes I'd rarely seen him wear during our marriage. Jeans, a sweater, loafers instead of his usual formal business attire. "Susan," he stood, extending his hand rather than attempting a hug. "Thank you for coming." We ordered coffee and spoke of neutral topics at first, the mild weather, Tyler and Amber's house hunting progress, my work at the archives. Gradually, the conversation turned more personal. "I keep thinking about what you said during our therapy session," Michael said, turning his coffee cup slowly. "About how love without respect hollows out over time. It was painful to hear, but it was true." "I'm glad you could hear it," I replied. "For many years I couldn't even say it," he nodded. "I've been learning to listen. Really listen, not just wait for my turn to speak." A rueful smile. "It's harder than it sounds." "Yes," I agreed. "It is." "Susan," he hesitated, seemingly searching for the right words. "I don't expect forgiveness or reconciliation, but I hope that someday, perhaps we might find a way to be friendly. For Tyler's sake, for Sophia's." I considered his request. 6 months ago I would have rejected the possibility outright, but the woman I'd become was strong enough to consider what might be healthy, what might be possible. "I think that could happen, Michael. Not immediately, but eventually." Relief softened his features. "That's more than I hoped for." As we finished our coffee, Michael mentioned he'd been accepted into a volunteer program working with young entrepreneurs. Using my business experience for something beyond profit, he explained. It feels like atonement, in a way. When we parted, he offered his hand again. I took it briefly, this final physical connection to 32 years of shared history. Goodbye, Michael. Goodbye, Susan. Be well. I walked away without looking back, free at last from the weight of what had been and moving steadily toward what might yet be. 1 year to the day after that fateful anniversary dinner where Amber had called me just the cleaner, I hosted a housewarming party at my cottage. The timing wasn't deliberate, it simply worked best with everyone's schedules, but the symmetry felt right. A full-circle moment marking how much had changed in 12 months. My small home overflowed with guests: Anna and Jackson, Elena from Mao, the community college, Margaret and the book club members, my hiking group friends, even Lena, who had indeed separated from Carter and was cautiously exploring life on her own terms. Tyler and Amber brought Sophia, now a chattering 2-year-old who considered my cottage her second home. Michael came briefly, keeping his promise to respect boundaries while gradually establishing a cordial relationship with me. As evening fell, we gathered on the deck overlooking the ocean. Tyler proposed a toast, raising his glass toward me. To my mother, he said, his voice carrying emotion, who taught me, somewhat belatedly, that true strength isn't about maintaining appearances or avoiding conflict. It's about having the courage to choose yourself even when it's terrifying. To Susan, the others echoed, glasses raised. Later, as guests began to leave, Amber approached me privately, nervousness evident in her posture. Susan, there's something I need to say, she began, fidgeting with her wedding ring. A year ago, I called you just the cleaner at that dinner. It was cruel and dismissive, and I've regretted it ever since. We've moved past that, Amber, I assured her. I know, but I need to finish. She took a deep breath. That comment came from my own insecurity, my fear of not measuring up to the family I'd married into. I thought if I diminished you, somehow I'd seem more important. It was childish and hurtful. Thank you for saying that, I acknowledged. The irony is, she continued with a small, self-deprecating laugh, you were never just anything. You were the heart of that family, the one who kept everything and everyone functioning. When you left, it all fell apart, and in the collapse, we finally had to face ourselves honestly. She glanced toward Tyler, who was helping Sophia build a sand castle at the edge of my property. I'm grateful every day that you had the courage to leave, not just for yourself, but for what it taught the rest of us. After everyone had gone and I was alone in my quiet cottage, I sat on the deck, with a glass of wine, reflecting on the year's journey. From the humiliated woman who had served dessert with a fixed smile while being demeaned in her own home, to the independent person who had rebuilt her life entirely on her own terms. My phone chimed with a text from Anna. Beautiful evening. You've created something magical there, sis. So proud of you. I smiled, typing back. Thanks for standing by me through all of it. As I watched the moon cast a silver path across the dark waves, I thought about the many ways we define ourselves throughout our lives. Daughter, wife, mother, professional, friend. For too many years, I had allowed others to determine which of those identities mattered most, which deserved priority, which could be sacrificed. That night at the anniversary dinner, when Amber had reduced me to just the cleaner, she had unknowingly sparked a revolution. Her casual cruelty had cracked open the careful facade I'd maintained for decades, allowing me to finally see the truth of my situation and find the courage to change it. Now, a year later, I was still cleaning, in a sense, sorting through the accumulated debris of a lifetime, keeping what nourished me, discarding what didn't, making space for new possibilities. But I was doing it for myself, by my own choice, according to my own standards. I raised my glass to the vast ocean before me, a silent toast to the woman I had become and the life I was continuing to build. A life that was, at long last, authentically mine, no longer just anything, simply completely myself. Up next, you've got 2 more standout stories right on your screen. If this one hit the mark, you won't want to pass these up. Just click and check them out. And don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any upload from us.